Welcome back to All Things Pink, where we discuss all things women over 40. And it is May, so we are celebrating moms all month long everywhere. And because of that, we are going to actually be having a real and kind of raw conversation about a different side of motherhood. Not the Instagram version, not the filtered version, not the we cherish every moment version that so many people have to hear even when they're coming unglued. So, today we are going to be talking about the sometimes painful but ultimately beautiful truth.
Out in the open to the horizon, where your heart can finally breathe. Out in the open to the horizon, baby, let your love run wild, wild, wild. You gotta get out there and explore, baby, let your love run wild, wild, wild.
So, welcome back. And I hope you guys caught my last episode where I had the pleasure of bringing my own mom on the show, to celebrate Mother's Day and all of our moms. My mom is amazing, as you could probably tell by watching that. I owe her everything, not just because she was an incredible role model, but because she is incredibly giving. She is the glue that kind of holds our family together. And, to be very, very honest with you, our relationship has not always been peaches. That's just not reality. But I value her. And I'm incredibly grateful for all of the gifts, the things that she's done for my family and for my kids. It's just a beautiful thing, right? So, um, because motherhood is one of the most emotionally complex experiences that a woman can have, today we're exploring kind of another side. And I think so many women walk around silently carrying things that they never feel quite safe enough to say out loud, like, I love my kids more than anything, but this is so hard. Or I miss parts of myself, right? Or I feel guilty all the time, or I feel overwhelmed, or I feel invisible. Why do so many people not talk about that part? We're going to talk about that today. Now, I do think that's shifting a little bit. I do think that women are coming out and being more honest and open about their true feelings. So, if you're listening to this while you're folding laundry or driving to work, or maybe hiding in your car trying to get 5 minutes of peace, then this is for you. So, let's start with something that's maybe validating, right? Um, Women everywhere report that motherhood is emotionally harder than what they expected, right? You go into this thinking it's going to be all these things, and it doesn't always quite work out like that. It's definitely harder than any of us expected. Maybe it's because some of our moms made this look so easy, or we just weren't paying enough attention, because I think this has been going on for years. But according to multiple parenting and mental health surveys, the top reported struggles of motherhood include mental exhaustion, lack of personal time or space, I should add, feeling overstimulated, constant responsibility, financial stress, sleep deprivation, feeling invisible, balancing work and parenting, which I think is a big, huge struggle. And the last one, carrying the emotional load of the household. And honestly, that last one right there kind of deserves its own episode, because this one is huge, right? Motherhood isn't just about physical labor. It's remembering everything, all the doctor's appointments and the snacks and the appointments and the school forms and studying and the birthdays. And it's not just all of that. Women have historically become the emotional managers of the household. And when you have to constantly be emotionally regulating other people, It is exhausting. We talk about this like in relationships and in just like any kind of relationships. Nobody should be emotionally regulating you or a bunch of people. And historically, the moms have held the responsibility of the emotional temperature in the household. And that's really hard. And we see this a lot. We see this everywhere. And moms definitely say in surveys and women I've talked to that it isn't even like the physical work. It isn't even like keeping up with everything that tends to be the worst part. It's feeling like they can never fully turn their brain off. So even when they're resting, they're still mentally carrying the family. Guys, that is just overwhelming and exhausting. It just is. And yet, the funniest part is that historically, and still to this day, society acts like motherhood should just come naturally, right? We have the parts, so all of this should come naturally and it should be done gracefully all the time. Meanwhile, most of us are surviving on caffeine and anxiety. So that's not actually how this works. We're kind of struggling over here with that because we're giving and giving and giving, right? So that's not healthy. And that doesn't actually make for kind of a healthy environment. Um, Sacrifices. So I find it interesting. Definitely, I find this interesting because I've interviewed a lot of women. I've talked to a lot of women. A lot of women have been my clients, and women have been sacrificing themselves for a very long time. When I ask, what do you think you've sacrificed? They ultimately will either not be able to answer that because they've been doing it for so long, it becomes normal, or they revert to something else. And I'm like, no, what about you? What about you? Like for you, about you. And it's been, become so normal that they're like, I don't know who I am. Right. So becoming a mother, changes a woman's entire identity. So we're going to go to some research again. So studies consistently show that women report sacrificing these things: career advancement, sleep, of course, financial independence, friendships, hobbies, physical health, mental health, freedom, spontaneity, and to me, as I always save the best for last, their sense of self. And this one hits hard because I've been there. And many women who say that they lose touch with who they were before motherhood, I think we don't even know who we are anymore at all, and that runs deep. Moms are expected to keep everyone else thriving and alive and emotionally supported and fed and taken care of and encouraged and loved, while somehow also maintaining careers and relationships and fitness and beauty standards and emotional stability and their homes. And oftentimes doing this with little to no support or acknowledgement. And when you get down to the core of this is about grieving. Um, we quietly, sometimes, we quietly grieve the woman that we used to be while simultaneously loving our kids more than we love ourselves. And what's crazy is that both things can be true at the same time. You can deeply, deeply love being a mom and still mourn pieces of yourself. And that doesn't make you selfish. That makes you human, right? I mean, that's just part of who we are. We can do both at the same exact time. This is definitely where the mom guilt comes in, and I'm sure you've heard about mom guilt. We all have it, right? So, what what is mom guilt and what are we guilty about? Right? Research shows that the overwhelming majority of mothers report frequent guilt. So, what do you think moms feel guilty about? Everything. And when I say everything, I'm being serious. So, the reports show women have guilt as moms, and I love the first two: working too much, not working enough, which kind of makes me I feel weird about that one because I'm like, okay, so we basically put ourselves into a catch 22. So if you feel guilty about working too much, but you also feel guilty about not working enough, then basically you're just like riddled with guilt. We miss milestones, losing patience. If you're not sleeping, you're probably going to lose patience. Wanting alone time. We feel guilt about wanting time for ourselves, right? Not cooking enough, not being present enough, not enjoying motherhood enough, taking time for ourselves again, feeling overwhelmed. And the last one to me is mind blowing. They feel guilty over complaining. You caught that, right? So, women, moms, feel guilty for being honest about how we feel. That is a huge problem because we as human beings need, in order to resolve things, we need to be able to feel vulnerable. We need to be able to not call it complaining when we're just trying to express our feelings and be honest about things. And I feel like motherhood, or part of the reason, is that it's been romanticized for so long, for generations. Women are often taught you should be grateful. You wanted kids, right? You wanted them. So this is what comes with it. This is what moms do. Oh, I hate that one. And you should enjoy every moment. Everything should be positive. Just enjoy it. Yes, we enjoy every moment. I always tell people to, find positivity and enjoy moments, but we also need to be very truthful about those feelings. We need to be truthful about what's happening to us and the stress that we're experiencing. Because while all that's being said, some women are drowning, right? They're emotionally drowning and they're so afraid to admit it because they don't want to be labeled as a bad mother. But it doesn't make you a bad mother. Pretending motherhood is easy helps no one. That's just not how it is. When we pretend things are not happening, it absolutely makes it worse. That is just a fact. And hearing the truth can really help other women too. So, when you can be honest about how you're feeling, even if it's coming with this traditional mom guilt, shame starts to dissolve, and then the guilt starts to dissolve, and then you're able to thrive a whole lot better, right? So it stands to question, do women actually like being moms, right? Contrary to what social media might make you think, motherhood is not blissful 24/7. For most women, it's not. If it's blissful for you 24/7, oh my gosh, you are so blessed. Like, that's wonderful. But I will say, there's two sides to all of this, and surveys do consistently show that the majority of women, um, mothers, do report that motherhood gives their lives meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. At the same time, they're also reporting feelings of depletion, isolation, being overwhelmed. They're emotionally exhausted. So moms are living like literally like two lives at the same time. It's like superpowers, right? I think and I think that's okay. I absolutely think it's okay because Motherhood contains both joy and grief simultaneously. You can adore your children, but really not like things about being a mom. You can feel blessed and burnt out. You can be grateful and exhausted. We should have permission. Actually, I don't even want to say that because we don't need permission. We should not be shamed for holding both truths without shame. The problem isn't motherhood. It's to me, the problem isn't it's that modern motherhood asks women to do everything with very little support. And honestly, a lot of moms are not failing. They might just be unsupported. That's a huge difference. If you're unsupported, it's not necessarily a failure. And one of the saddest statistics as I was like researching for this and, gathering my information from years of talking to women, um, a significant percentage of moms report being unseen and unappreciated in their homes. They're doing all of these things, but they don't feel appreciated. And, you know, we are the default person, right? You're the default person for everything. And after years and years of giving, many moms feel invisible. That's why and I even feel like that. I don't feel like I ever told my mom enough of that when I was younger. And then I became one and became invisible. So like I was like, damn, right? Like I really feel shitty about that now. Like I feel bad, because like everyone notices when you stop functioning. Everyone notices that. But how many times do you get noticed when you are functioning and you're doing all the things, you're doing everything, and then it's just expected of you? That's what hurts. You know, most women, I don't think that they necessarily want praise. They want partnership. They want emotional support. They want someone else to notice what needs to be done and actually do it without being asked. Because carrying the entire load, it's such a high expectation, and it's just not realistic for any human being, to be honest with you. It also becomes incredibly lonely. It's a lonely place to be. I have been in that place. Again, I feel absolutely terrible that if I ever put my mom in that place, and I know I did, and I feel awful. I've already apologized. That's like terrible. But don't worry, it got me back. Like life absolutely got me back for that. Um, for just a minute, I do want to talk about like a group of women that I love very much because I am one of them, and that is single moms. Let's talk about single moms for a moment because we do have some pretty big statistics here. Millions of households in the United States are led by single mothers. Millions. And all the struggles that moms in general that I have listed, that we all have as moms, single moms are taking it a million times harder. So shout out to the superheroes that call yourselves a single mom because you're doing the job of two people at a very high rate all the time, and you're sheltering and you're shouldering every single thing. Okay, everything. Single moms are some of the strongest women on the planet. Um, you're carrying responsibilities that you were not meant to carry. And what's even more heartbreaking is that society still oftentimes judges single moms unfairly and more than it supports them. While this should be revered, we still have judgment in this world. We're doing impossible things every single day. So, to every single mom listening, I see you. I hear you. I hope you know that your strength is extraordinary. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I know that. So, even on the days that you don't feel strong, you're extraordinary. So, another, thing with motherhood that I'm only going to talk about briefly because it's actually huge, is a very painful topic. It's and this is estrangement between mothers and their kids. It's becoming increasingly common, and I only mention it to say that it's something that's heartbreaking to me. I'm a huge supporter of forgiveness, but this particular topic actually warrants its own episode because it runs very deep, and there's circumstances and there's situational things that need to be taken into consideration and respected in order to really talk about family estrangement. But experts report that the top contributing factors include unresolved trauma, toxic dynamics, lack of emotional communication, untreated mental health struggles, addiction, boundary issues, emotional neglect, and generational patterns. You know, that's huge. But unfortunately, this is like really common now, that this concept of estrangement and I'm not really big into the cancel culture, but I also, respect different dynamics in different situations. So, what I do want to talk about though is the guilt that moms carry over mistakes that they've made. So, estrangement sometimes can happen and we don't even realize or make pathways to making amends. But know that mothers carry this enormous guilt and they remember every mistake. And a lot of times these mistakes were made while they were surviving seasons in their life that they themselves barely made it through. And sometimes they really, really did the best they could with the cards that they were dealt. I know I have made a ton of them. I have made so many mistakes. I can't even count how many mistakes that I've made. Not knowing what I know now, it was a huge mistake, right? Fighting my own battles and not having enough to give back to my kids, like enough of me, thinking that I was, right? Being there to provide, but not emotionally as much as I would have liked to have. Losing my patience because now I'm not sleeping, it happens, or not even knowing what to do. Like not knowing what to do, I always felt was a mistake, and it's probably mom guilt. You know, um, Overprotecting. I have been the most overprotective mom at times. Thinking that that's going to help them, thinking that that's going to protect them. I am a mama bear. Like nobody sees red deeper than I do when somebody hurts my kid, right? But that's not always the best thing. It's not. Um, But at the end of the day, I think what matters the most is this: no mother is perfect. Not a single person is perfect. So why would we expect moms to be perfect? We're all parenting out here while still healing parts of ourselves too. And, I think as a mom who has made a million mistakes, I think sometimes the greatest gift that we can give our kids is the willingness to grow, apologize, evolve, communicate honestly, admit to our mistakes, understand our own selves and acknowledge and accept that and be okay with that. I love my kids endlessly. I think that they are two of the most incredible and the greatest humans on the planet. I really do. Mistakes and all. They can frustrate me. They push me to my limits. At times, I will be worried endlessly until like the end of time for them. I will worry about them when they are 40. Uh, but I hope they always know that I think they are incredible people. So, I want to close this out by saying something that I think a lot of women need to hear. Um, Motherhood is not supposed to erase you. You were a whole woman before you became a mom, and you still matter now. Your peace matters, your identity matters, your dreams matter, your health matters. And somewhere along the way, so many women were taught that being a good mom meant sacrificing themselves completely. But depleted women cannot pour endlessly forever, right? So at some points, we need to acknowledge and realize that we deserve rest, we deserve support. And if no one has told you lately, you're probably doing better than you think you are. So, like, even on the bad days, the messy days, the crying in the bathroom days, the I have literally no flipping idea what I'm doing days, it's okay. And you're doing okay. Because motherhood also was never meant to be perfection, it was always meant to be love. And most moms, most are loving their children with everything that they have. And that's what matters. So, thank you guys so much for joining me today and celebrating moms with us all month long. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like and comment. Please share with me your mom stories and your experiences. We're also on Apple and Spotify if you want to listen. And thank you again for joining us, and catch us next time here on All Things Pink.
You gotta get out there and explore.